Hi, my name is Jeremiah Gilbert. I'm a travel writer and photographer, and I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about my latest book. It's called On to Plan C, A Return to Travel. This book's a little different from my other two. My first two books were based on my past travels. So, the first book was a collection of travel tales, so spread around 15 years. So, for instance, I told the story of how my wife and I met in Tunisia on a trip I wasn't supposed to be on, how I spent my 40th birthday in Paris with no ID or money because I was pickpocketed on the metro, things along those lines. Second book was based on my travel journals and told about the first 5 years of my travels. But then the pandemic hit and no traveling. So, what I decided to do with this book was a couple things. First, document my return to travel. So, May 2022, we set off for Fiji, which was the first trip that was canceled back in 2020, so it made sense. And then just follow along basically the first year back, what happened. So, where my first two books were based on my notes and my journals, this one I knew going in this is what I wanted to write about. So, it was a little different for me. I still had notes and such, but I mostly wrote it either while traveling or as soon as I got back from a trip. So that was a little different, and I quite enjoyed that. Also, this is my first of my books to include my photography. So normally I don't include photos, I just keep, the books are books. But this time around, I thought it would be nice to document. But the thing is, I didn't want to document, post COVID, so you don't see piles of luggage or people wearing masks. I wanted the documentation to be just these are the sights I saw and the beautiful things there are, and the world's opening up again. That said, I do, address some of the issues. There were several headlines. I mean, last summer was supposed to be a travel Armageddon filled with, lost luggage and canceled flights. Thankfully, we didn't encounter any of that, but I know that was what was going around. I also, tried to talk with a number of people, tour guides, cab drivers, how have things changed. So it was very interesting to hear, for instance, how Fiji responded and how they got vaccines to their remote villages, and how they, supported their population during the, 2020, 2021 times. In fact, we were one of the, I think America, Australia were the first two countries to open up to Fiji. And even then, just 2 weeks before we took off, testing requirements had changed yet again. So it was rather challenging. And then in the summer, we flew into Berlin not wearing any masks, no problem. When we flew out, we were told, "Oh nope, every flight must wear a mask," and that's policy, and it's been policy for months. It's like, well, no one told the first flight, which was fine. A couple other interesting things about this book. You'll notice I don't include the name on the cover. You actually have to open it up to see its name. That wasn't a conscious decision. Normally, what I do with my books is I take a photo for the cover, send it to the publisher, they design the layout and the text. This time they sent it back without the text, and I thought, that's interesting. You get the impression from the photo, I think, so, whether it was a good idea or not, we'll see, but I thought it was something different. Um, Also, the title, my titles, I don't go in having a title. This book, I had a working title. It had a very long subtitle. I changed it a couple times. But actually, it was after the summer where we literally were on Plan C. Our first plan was to do a cruise up West Africa, starting in Cape Town, and it just fell through. So, okay, uh, I had a feeling that might happen, so I had a plan B, which was cruising up in Northern Europe. The highlight there was going to be a few nights in St. Petersburg. The visa for Russia is not easy to get, especially as an American. So if you do a cruise, you can get a 72-hour visa, which is really great. But then, the invasion of Ukraine happened, so that was canceled. So decided, okay, we're seasoned travelers, my wife and I. Let's just head to Europe. We'll hit a few places like Bergen, Copenhagen, Berlin that I surprisingly hadn't been to before. My wife had. And let's just, do it ourselves and see what happens. It turned out very enjoyable. And again, once I realized I wanted to include my photography this time around, it shortened the book. So I was going to do the first full year, so basically May 2022 to April 2023. But I decided that would just be too big of a book. So I ended it basically in 2022. So we took 4 big trips last year, documented them, and really enjoyed the process. Again, haven't written a book this way before, haven't included my photography before. Really enjoyed it. It's been very well reviewed so far, won a few awards. Um, it's always appreciated when that happens. And I'm planning on including my photography from now on.